Hello guys, I'm Warhammer and welcome to another Warhammer 3 speculation video. So in this video I will be covering what I think will be the battle and race mechanics for Slaanesh, the last Chaos God to be revealed. So talking a little bit about Slaanesh. Slaanesh is widely known as the Prince of Pleasure. Slaanesh is dedicated to the pursuit of excess and the overthrow of all moderate behavior. Everything in the world and the people in it are his playthings. Slaanesh is the most beguiling of all the demon gods. His demands, at least on the face of things, seem the most attractive and easy to comply with. Where you see the power of this heinous god does not lie in bloody warfare, demonic sorcery, or vile decay as it does with his brothers. Slaanesh's power lies in exploiting people's base desires to experience and pursue pleasures. I kind of came up with like 5 themes that I think will be the main points that they'll try to hit with Slaanesh and his mechanics. One is excess in all its forms. Slaanesh is all about extremes on both ends of any spectrum. He is the most powerful when things are either at their best or their worst. Boredom. Slaanesh is all about new experiences. Any action repeated over time loses its appeal, and so new and more exciting things need to be done in order to achieve the same high. Perfection. Followers of Slaanesh are all about obsessing and mastering everything they do. Slaves. Slaanesh armies are known for taking captives after battles. These captives will be taught the ways of Slaanesh. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, along with seduction, torture, and sacrifice. These are all possible options that they could implement. And, of course, last of all is the cults of Slaanesh. The most important thing to be stated about it is that Slaanesh should be the Chaos God with the most mechanics dedicated to cults. Slaanesh is basically the one Chaos God that has managed to infiltrate almost every society. Because event societies, and especially those in power, lend themselves so much to worshipping Slaanesh, his cults should spread the easiest and play a more significant role in his faction than the other Chaos Gods. So just looking through kind of the army books to see what kind of the main traits were for a lot of the Slaanesh units. In the older editions, they pretty much always had immunopsychology, although this isn't present in 8th edition, which on Total War Warhammer is based. But because Creative Assembly and Games Workshop tend to blend the editions to get a certain flavor for Total War, we can kind of speculate looking at some of those. So talking about battle mechanics for Slaanesh, here's a passage from the Liber Chaotica about Slaanesh. For the Slaaneshi, the thrills of battle and the infliction and experience of pain are things to be joyfully repeated. Slaaneshi demons and mortal warriors take an obscene delight in causing pain and taking lives. Their wanton pleasure spurred to new heights by the suffering and desperation of their opponents. So because Slaanesh was never really fully developed in the later editions of Warhammer Fantasy, I'm going to take a look at some of the 8th edition stuff, but also Age of Sigmar, which has explored Slaanesh the most out of all the Chaos Gods. So in Age of Sigmar, the Slaaneshi faction, the Heathen Knights of Slaanesh, have a rule called Depravity. So Depravity is a resource that's generated whenever one of your units is wounded but not killed. You can spend this by giving some units extra attacks or target enemies for damage. It has a bunch of uses, but the general theme is taking damage for Slaanesh isn't a hindrance, it spurs them on to greater prowess in battle. So for Slaanesh, dealing damage and taking damage are both positives. So for simply taking damage and dishing it out, I think Slaanesh will empower his followers to maybe get things like Frenzy or just some general battle buffs. But I can also see Slaanesh units having bound abilities or an aura that reduces enemy melee stats, because the big thing in lore is that they're supposed to exude like this magical aura that they're the most beautiful things ever created. Even though they're demons, it's just a magical thing that overwhelms people's senses. So they should have that ability to kind of reduce enemy stats. But I see it kind of working the same way that the Khorne units do, where this buff kind of comes up after they've taken and dealt a certain amount of damage, instead of getting a certain number of kills like the Khorne units do. On to campaign mechanics. So Slaanesh is all about seducing and entrapping friend and foe. So for him, I can see like the seduction thing, I can see that being a really big bonus to new diplomatic relationships. But because he gets bored so easily, they'll eventually turn to negatives if they're held too long. So Slaanesh is always going to be about starting new relationships and ending old diplomatic relationships before they start to bore him. So going back to those 5 points, starting with excess, I can see maybe like excessive amounts of currency providing faction-wide bonuses for your armies, or excessive control, which is the new name for public order. So that's either really, really positive control or really negative control. We can kind of see how they would each give different bonuses, but it should always be a trade-off of that pleasure and pain, where even though it's hurting them, it's giving Slaanesh exactly what they want. We haven't exactly seen in depth how the settlements are going to work for any of the Chaos Gods, but I can see Slaanesh gaining significant bonuses to either armies or economy when at either extremes of control. For perfection, we've already seen this a little bit with Sigvald in the last update they had to his mechanics and skill tree, is that Sigvald gives bonuses to units that are at a high rank. This kind of echoes their pursuit of perfection. So I think that should be a general thing for Slaanesh, is that the higher rank that they get, the more bonuses they get, along with all those provided by the Lord's skill tree. So going on to his aversion to boredom. So talking about boredom, so I think it should be kind of that double-edged sword where Slaanesh gets lots of bonuses for starting lots of things, like starting new wars. They get lots of new bonuses. Starting new diplomatic relationship, they should get new bonuses. But if any of those things go on too long, like if a war goes on longer than, let's say, 30 turns, that starts to become a negative because Slaanesh is getting bored of it. So it should all be about chasing that ever new exciting thing instead of just getting in a rut, I should say. On to the fourth part, slaves. So I think Slaanesh should get a slave system similar to the Dark Elves, but not quite the same where it's entirely economy-based, because I don't think the Chaos Gods are going to have a regular economy. But I think slaves should play an important part for Slaanesh, because captured enemies are tortured and pleasured at the same time, and it always boosts both the Slaaneshi units and kind of their overall fervor. You kind of have the option to what to do with slaves, but overall just having them gives pleasures to either your faction overall or just that specific army. I think that'd be cool to differentiate it from the Dark Elves, would be tying the slaves to each particular army that they take. Another really cool mechanic I think would work really well for Slaanesh is the prison system for the Warden and the Paunch that came with Elthari and the Grim. So I think it'd be really cool if you could have the same ability where you can capture enemy lords and you can start to try to turn them to your side. So if you hold them for a few amount of turns, you'll get bonuses, but if like all the things before, if you hold them too long, Slaanesh will start to get bored and those will become negatives for you. So captured lords could provide positive influence in diplomacy. They could let you automatically spread a cult to a certain one of their cities. And I think it would be cool if they came up with a system that kind of played on the loyalty mechanic where you could actually start to turn, I mean, maybe not just for Slaanesh, but all the Chaos Gods, where you could start to turn enemy lords, probably not legendary lords, but generic lords, like a reverse loyalty mechanic where you could gradually bring down their loyalty. And if they get to 0, then they could be turned over to your control, or more likely, I think, is that they would just become a rebellious army, like how loyalty currently works. And on to the cults of Slaanesh. So the central pleasures of art, music, and companionship fascinate Slaanesh, and he is drawn to mortals possessed of physical beauty and charm. Unlike the other Chaos Gods, Slaanesh goes out of his way to court the affections of mortals, seeking to ensnare their souls in his web of excess. As such, his palace of pleasure is not home solely to demons and damned souls. It also entertains those mortals Slaanesh wishes to tempt. So this is kind of a general idea. I think it'd be really cool for some of Slaanesh's cult buildings to really affect public order. Like when the control is really high in an enemy settlement, that Slaanesh gets a huge boost to corruption, or when it's really low, it pushes it even really closer to rebellion. Something like pleasure houses would be one of the choices, where it increases the diplomatic relationships over time with the host faction. And I think one that would be interesting, kind of based off the sexual themes that Slaanesh had for a really long time, is just that the higher growth that a province has, which is the more people that are brought into the population, the more Slaanesh corruption is spread. So with all those things, what do you guys think of my predictions for the Slaanesh mechanics? I'm really interested to see what they are, because Slaanesh was kind of the underdeveloped Chaos God for a really long time in Warhammer Fantasy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for any missing content. I really appreciate it, as it helps the video get shown to other people, and currently I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, so I can apply to be a verified content creator partner with Creative Assembly. Achieving this would allow me early access to new information, allowing me to produce better and faster content for all of you. My name is Fohammer, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.